Hey folks, this is Kalani. This has been a bit of a rough week for a variety of reasons. We have lots of changes in-game relating to character progression and end-game gearing. Alts might be given a few extra ways to speed up their power gains. Sylvanas might actually be worth killing going forward, and there are some new rewards up for grabs. Let's talk about it. Let's kick things off with sockets, because sockets are very important in patch 9.1, mainly because we have two types of sockets to worry about now instead of just one. Well, players have started reaching tier 6 with the Archivist's Codex reputation. Yeah, crazy, right? Well, I guess people have been mega farming their catalogued research because holy cow. But anyway, players have managed to get to the point where you can straight up buy sockets for your gear in Season 2. That sounds like an incredible power boost, right? A bunch of sockets means you can slap in some shiny gems and get a bunch of secondary stats. Well, for most pieces of gear anyway. Those very same players found out this week that we apparently cannot apply a socket to an item with a Domination Socket. I guess these sockets don't play well together. So how many pieces of gear does this affect? Well, it actually depends on your armor type. You can apply a socket to 6 different pieces of gear: head, neck, bracers, belt, and your 2 rings. Those are the only items that can have a socket randomly or can have a socket applied to them. Let's compare that with domination gear. Cloth users have head, shoulder, chest, bracers, and belt domination sockets, so that only leaves their neck and 2 rings that can have gem sockets applied to them. That fully halves a cloth user's available sockets, which is kind of lame. For leather users, the only domination socket they have that conflicts is the headpiece, so they get access to 5 out of the 6 available sockets. Male users have domination sockets on headpieces and belts, so they lose 2 sockets out of the total 6, and plate users have headpieces and bracers with domination sockets, so they also lose out on 2 sockets. The weirdest part about all of this is that for the entirety of the PTR, you can have both a domination socket and a gem socket on the same piece of gear. So it's not like this is a technical limitation, this is a choice to limit where we can put sockets. Normally, I wouldn't really care too much, especially considering that secondary stat gems aren't super impactful. I know I'd rather have a new system over being able to socket a few gems, but the way in which this system works means this decision impacts different classes in different ways. That just looks like bad design from where I'm standing, but maybe this change wasn't fully intended, and maybe we'll get a hotfix sometime soon that allows you to add sockets to all of the usual item slots, regardless of domination sockets. So this might not be a problem by the time you and I get to tier 6 and are able to buy sockets. Let's keep our fingers crossed. In other socket news, players also found out this week that buying the important character upgrades from the Archivist's Codex, the Alloy Warping Facetor and the Deathbound Shard, is not currently account-wide. That means you would have to do the rep grind separately on any alts you wanted to make use of these items on. I remember when Venari was first swapped over to unlock her goods and wares on an account-wide basis, there was a massive sigh of relief of not having to grind through the more dailies on every other character. And I think that's how most of these vendors and rewards should work. Account-wide unlocks are usually a huge quality of life bonus, and it makes playing alts a lot more fun. Now, thankfully, the dev team have already come out and said they're working on a hotfix to address this specific issue and change it so that both conduit upgrade items and socket items purchased from the Archivist's Codex vendor will become account-wide. So when one character has unlocked tier 6, any of your other characters should be able to buy the socket item and the conduit item without any restrictions in play. So there is some good news here at least, but until that hotfix comes through, your alts are going to have to wait for some easy sockets. This does make me worry a bit about the domination socket thing though. The dev team replied with a plan of action very quickly to the alt problem, but there's near a whisper about the domination socket conflict, so maybe we'll actually just have to live with that one. I guess it doesn't help that this little problem adds on top of the other issues that a lot of players have been running into regarding the Shard of Domination system. While there are some redeeming factors to the new system as a whole, I haven't actually seen much discussion that focused on many positives of the system, and instead I've seen a lot of how it's bland, boring, and frustrating, and I can definitely sympathize. Shards of Domination feel like a halfway measure to raid set bonuses, something that players have been asking for since they were removed a few expansions ago. We do know that they're apparently still planned for 9.2 in that raid tier, but for now, I guess we have to deal with the halfway measure. Now, a very small positive change has actually been made to the acquisition of shards at the very least. Going forward, Sylvanas Windrunner will always drop a shard of domination for every player when she is defeated. So if you only need one more shard to complete your collection, and no other boss in the raid has the decency to drop it for you, at least you are guaranteed to get it from Sylvanas now, assuming you can kill her on normal or heroic. That doesn't really help that much, but at least it's something. There's actually another change to Sylvanas' loot besides the guaranteed Shard of Domination. You may not have known this, but for the first few weeks of the raid opening up, Sylvanas would actually only drop the normal version of the Legendary Bow. It didn't matter whether you killed her on normal or heroic, she would drop the item level 233 version of the Legendary Bow, which was definitely very confusing for the hunters who managed to kill her on heroic relatively early, only to be rewarded with an item of a significantly lower item level compared to her typical loot. We also found out that the upgrade items that allow you to bump up a normal item level legendary bow to the heroic item level are not guaranteed, and they are in fact supposed to be a rare drop. So if you get the bow from normal, or you were one of the unlucky ones to get the 233 bow from heroic, upgrading that bow to item level 246 could actually take a very long time if you only relied on that drop and upgrade, and require multiple kills of heroic Sylvanas, which is proving to be quite difficult. This might be one of the hardest heroic raids the dev team has ever put out, and right now more guilds have actually killed the first 3 bosses on Mythic when compared to heroic Sylvanas. This is also one of the first times in a long time that our guild hasn't been able to get ahead of the curve in the first week of a raid opening, much to the disappointment of some of our guildies. It's just tuned that tight. It is a very difficult heroic boss to kill, so knowing that you'll have to kill it again and again and again to maybe get a chance of this legendary upgrade is going to disappoint quite a few hunters. It looks like there may have been an undocumented hotfix pushed through though, because some players have actually had the legendary bow drop at item level 246 after killing Sylvanas on heroic, so maybe the initial restriction was just for the world first race, which is pretty silly in my opinion. Maybe it was just an oversight, or maybe the dev team made a weird last minute decision, or maybe the bow just randomly drops at item level 233 or item level 246. I don't know, the dev team hasn't really said anything about it, but now you can get the 246 bow from killing Sylvanas on heroic and getting very lucky. We're still not too sure how those upgrade items are going to fully work though, because I don't think anyone has actually gotten one yet. As a nice bonus, there have been some recent reports of players who received an item level 233 bow from heroic Sylvanas getting in-game mail saying that this wasn't intended, and they also get a free upgrade to let them bump up the item level of their bow to the appropriate 246 item level. So fingers crossed, all of this is actually resolved and you should be able to get the appropriate item level bow if you kill Sylvanas on the appropriate difficulty. Sadly, a lot of this is a bit overshadowed by the fact that the bow isn't actually that good, which is a major disappointment. With the weekly vault rewards from Mythic Plus capping out at 252, and with some of the weapons available early on in the raid of Mythic, I don't know if the legendary bow at item level 246 is actually powerful enough to use over those higher item level weapons, and upgrading the bow to the Mythic item level also probably won't be guaranteed with a Sylvanas kill, so it's going to be very rare indeed, which means it's going to take a very long time. So we might not see people running around with the Sylvanas bow all too often, even if they do get it to drop, which in my opinion is very disappointing. In other news, the Necrotic Wake dungeon was recently hotfixed to nerf pretty much every fun part about it, and by that I obviously mean the weapons. There are 3 big weapons that make Necrotic Wake a lot of fun and allow you to do some crazy stuff, like killing bosses in a few seconds if you save things properly and line it all up. You can also do some massive pulls and blast everything to Kingdom Come, but alas, those days may be over, or at least not quite as crazy. The Forgotten Forge Hammer, the Bloody Javelin, and the Discharged Anima Orb weapons were all nerfed by about 50%, so they will all be half as effective going forward. That's going to make any strategy that made heavy use of these items significantly harder, and it's going to make the dungeon harder overall because, let's be honest, the vast majority of strats, especially in higher keys, relied entirely on these weapons and how powerful they were. So you're going to have to do a bit more work yourself and probably pull a lot slower in this dungeon specifically. Sadly, that's not all of the nerfs for Necrotic Wake though. The special Kyrian ability to repair the Goliath scattered around the dungeon has also been nerfed. The Anima exhaust effect has also been nerfed by about 50%, so that's going to be a significant loss of damage on any pull where you are making use of the Kyrian Goliaths too. I wonder if we'll see some adjustments or balance tuning for Necrotic Wake sometime soon, or if the dev team just want this dungeon to be significantly harder than it was before these weapon effect nerfs. Personally, I think it's a bit of a shame because you could pull off some crazy risk-reward strats with these weapons being so powerful, and I think it was incredibly fun to plan things out and combo these weapons to blast through difficult parts of the dungeon. And hey, you know, when a boss falls over in 5 seconds flat, it's pretty funny. And to round out this video, there have been a few changes to popular Renown farming methods. First off the bat, Plaguefall Renown farming has been nerfed significantly. You'll now need to kill all of the bosses in the dungeon to open the door into the last boss's room, so you won't be able to just skip over the first 2 bosses, which will increase the time it takes to clear the dungeon overall, therefore increasing the time it takes to earn Renown from this dungeon specifically. I know a lot of players were using Plaguefall as their go-to Renown farming method because you could skip so much and clear through so quickly, and I know some players were using it to try and speed level too by using the same method, but that's been nipped in the bud, so you'll have to find some other crazy quick method for Renown Catchup. On the flip side, Renown has actually been added in to Torghast as a potential reward if you are behind and qualify for the catch-up mechanic. So running your ults through Torghast won't just be useful for the Soul Ash and catching up with the legendary crafting options, now you can also use it to catch up with Renown levels and Covenant progression. If this ends up being somewhat efficient, you might also be able to zoom through Covenant Renown catch-up after swapping Covenants if you spam layer 1 of Torghast over and over and over again. We'll have to wait and see what the drop rate looks like. The post did say that higher levels of Torghast will have increased drop chances, but another reward from Torghast isn't a bad thing. It should hopefully be an extra little freebie to anyone who needs the Renown and is already doing Torghast for other reasons. But that's it for this video. What do you think of the Domination Socket system conflicting with ordinary gem slots? How do you feel about the shard system in general now that we've had a few weeks to play around with it? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who subscribed on Twitch. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I'll see you next time.